Meeting of the Finance Committee to order on July 1, 2020. As chairperson of the Finance Committee, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are, first, providing public access to the meeting by telephone, with additional access possibilities by video or other electronic means. We are utilizing WebEx through the city's IT department for this electronic meeting. All members of the all members of the Finance Committee have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through this platform. And the public has access to contemporaneously listen to this meeting through dialing the following number: 978-990-5298, and by using the access code 237974. The public may also view this meeting on Comcast Channel 16. Second, providing public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting. We previously gave notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing the meeting through public postings. Instructions have also been provided on the City of Nashua's website at www.nashuanh.gov and publicly noticed at City Hall and at City Hall. Third, providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anybody has a problem accessing the meeting or via phone or channel 16, please call area code 603-821-2049 and they will help you connect. Fourth, adjourning the meeting if the public is unable to access the meeting. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting via the phone number mentioned above, the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call. Let's start the meeting by taking roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, state why you are not physically present for the meeting, and also please state whether there is anyone in the room with you during this meeting. These things are required under the right to know law. So could the clerk please call the roll?
Yeah. Alderman Patricia Clee.
I'm here. I can hear everyone. I'm alone in this room and I am home doing this remotely per the governor's request to stay at home.
Alderwoman Elizabeth Lou.
Yes, I'm here. I can hear you and I'm alone. I'm practicing social distancing.
And the clerk is present. I can hear everyone and I'm alone and practicing social distancing. Alderwoman Shoshana Kelly.
I am here. I'm alone. I can hear everyone, and I am practicing social distancing.
Alderman Brandon Laws.
I'm here. I'm alone. I can hear you, and I am also practicing social distancing.
Alderman Michael O'Brien.
I'm present. I can hear the proceedings. I am alone and practicing social distancing.
And Mr. Mayor.
Yes, I am present. I am practicing social distancing and I'm alone in the living room. All right, and I also see we have Alderman Cleaver present from the Board of Aldermen. And I think that's it from the board. Of course, staff members are present and we will of course hear from them as we proceed. Public comment, we don't have that. Next, given the limitations of the WebEx meetings. So we'll go on to communications from, well, there's a communication from Dan Kuchen.
Yep.
Alderwoman Harriet Gathright.
Mr. Mayor, I motion to accept, placed on file, and approve the donation of surplus supplies and equipment to the National International Sculpture Symposium by roll call.
And I don't know if there's anyone here to speak to this, but the equipment at Ultima was auctioned off. But before the auction, we provided some equipment to the Sculpture Symposium. Ultima is the NIMCO building. There's still various, or at least one legal dispute ongoing regarding that building. But this was to help the Sculpture Symposium.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
So we did supply a memo earlier. There was a donation once before, and then we went to auction and we auctioned off a lot of the material. This was actually left over from the auction, and the Sculpture Symposium indicated that they would be interested versus disposing of the material. We felt it would be best put to good use in the community.
Okay. Any discussion? Alderwoman Clee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I appreciate that we're not filling the landfill with any of this material and so on, and that it is going to good use. And I did read where we had already gone to the auction, and these items were not part of it. There do seem to be some bulky items here. The only question that I had was what seems to be in bottles. Is there anyone here that would be able to answer what that materials are?
Yeah.
It was selected oils and greases, I think they said. Those aren't like toxic items, they're just things that they could possibly use during their sculptures. Is that what it is?
Right. Most of them were solvents and solutions that they could use in maintaining the running of the machines, of the various machines that they were taking as well. Before we did go to auction, much earlier in the process, we did have a sweep of the building for toxic materials.
Okay.
So that was done prior to going out to auction to make sure that the building was safe for the auctioneers to even come in at that point.
Okay, and if I may follow up, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, of course.
There was, I'm just trying to make sure I call it by the right name here. There's a cable hoist item that's there. So seeing that, I'm assuming that, does it mean that they will be using this building for the sculpture, or will they be removing that item?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Ms. Kleiner.
They will be removing all items.
Okay.
No items will be allowed to remain within the NIMCO building.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Director Kleiner. I appreciate your answers.
Anyone else? Could the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Clee,
Yes.
Alderwoman,
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
clerk says yes. Alderman Kelly,
Yes.
Alderman Laws,
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien,
Yes.
and Mayor.
Yes. Motion passes. Another communication from Dan Kuchen, Purchasing Manager.
I motion to accept, placed on file, and authorize the purchase of MPD ammunition and supplies in the amount of $59,396 to Eagle Point, Gunt, Morris and Son. Funding through Department 150 Police Funds Ammunition and Supplies account and General Fund by roll call.
And of course, this is pretty self-explanatory, but I believe Deputy Testaverde is on the phone or on the video.
Mr. Mayor, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
I'm going to defer. Thank you, sir. I'm going to defer to Officer Scott Serrell, who's with us, and he's one of our firearms training union officers and a subject matter expert on it. So I'll jump in if there's anything outside this, but I'll let Officer Serrell take it from here. Go ahead, Scott.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. Like I was introduced, my name is Scott Searle. I'm in the firearms training unit at the Nashville Police Department. And with some of the other gear that we issue, we are in control of the ordering of the ammunition. I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
I don't see any questions. Could the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Clee,
Yes.
Alderwoman Lou.
Yes.
Clerk says yes. Alderwoman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Laws,
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien,
Yes.
and Mayor.
Yes, motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Another communication from Dan Kukin.
I motion to accept, placed on file, and award the contract for USDA Wildlife Management Service Agreement in the amount of $80,463 to USDA Wildlife Services. Funding through Department 168 Solid Waste Fund, Solid Waste, by roll call.
And Mr. LaFleur is here on this.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. This is our annual contract with our gull control. They keep the birds out of the landfill. They also go around and travel throughout the city if there's any problems with turkey vultures, and they take care of submitting all of our applications and our permits to DES.
And Mr. LaFleur is superintendent of the landfill.
Sorry about that.
Any questions, comments? Alderwoman Clee.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I just had one quick question, and that was relative to, it says the competitive bidding process shall not apply to the following special purchases. Is there a particular reason why we don't put this out to bid, or is it just because we're just continuing a particular contract with them?
We tried to put this out to bid before, and we only had them as a response for it. It's pretty specialized, and they're the preferred contract through the DES. So they're a very specialized company, and they've been doing it for 20 years with the city. So.
Right, and I guess I was asking that question more just for the public's knowledge of it, and if it's okay with Mr. Mayor, I just have one other kind of comment to it.
Of course, go ahead.
Thank you. You said that that it was preferred through DES, so they're using this in other municipalities or in the state. Is that where that's
yes,
from,
correct.
or is it?
Yeah, Lebanon landfill, turnkey landfill. They're all supplied through this vendor.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else? Alderwoman Lou.
Thank you, Mayor Donchis. The title, the company name are they with the USDA, in fact?
Yes, they're a subsidy of it. They're USDA APHIS is the name of the company. So they are part of the USDA.
Oh, USDA APHIS, I see, because in the contract it said something about APHIS.
Correct.
Yep, that's the name of their company is APHIS, but they are part of the USDA.
Well, But the USDA is an agency of the federal government, isn't it?
Yes.
And
They're a subcontractor below the USDA, I guess you want to say. That's how they've always been named every year, as USDA APHIS.
right, I just wondered if they're a private enterprise.
I think they're funded mostly through the government.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else? Could the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Clee,
Yes.
Alderwoman Lou,
Yes.
clerk says yes. Alderwoman Kelly,
Yes.
Alderman Laws,
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien,
Yes.
and Mayor.
Yes. Motion passes. Another communication from Dan Coogan.
I motion to accept, placed on file, and authorize the purchase of two CMS-T333 electronic message boards in the amount of $33,602 to American Signal Company, funding through Department 161, Streets Fund Gopher Grant, by roll call.
All right, I don't see anyone from the street department here, but these are the electronic message boards that we've been using. We want to add to the number. I believe we have 4, because 2 of them we're using downtown for the expanded dining, and we really need more than 2 others to post speed limits and other messages around the city. This will be reimbursed by the so-called Gopher funds, which is the federal aid that's available to assist with the COVID-19 response. So this will be cost neutral to the city, and we will get 2 message boards that we don't have now. Any Alderwoman Lou?
Thank you. Just wondering how will we rationalize these as Gopher reimbursable? I'm just wondering what use they will be in the COVID response.
Well, the expanded outdoor dining is a COVID response. And for example, the cost of the Jersey barriers is going to be reimbursed through Gopher funds as well. And this is part of the expanded dining, because we're using them to inform people that they're driving into an area that's more constricted because of the expanded outdoor dining.
Okay, that's a good point. And also the ones that we have are not available because they're already downtown, right?
They're being used elsewhere.
Okay. Thank you.
Alderwoman Clee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just adding to that, not so much as a question, I would assume that we'd also be using these for when we've been doing mobile testing, or even to put up the messages as to where people would be able to find the information.
We could do that, yes.
I think we would be able to justify the purchase of these for COVID reasons in a multitude of manners, even if it's just to put something up for the city of warning.
Yes.
One other question.
Lou.
Thanks. Were these did we have a competitive bid on these?
Ms. Kleiner, do you know the answer to that?
Mr. Mayor, the DPW department has a vendor that they have used for the purchase of these message boards. These particular boards did not go out to bid. They used the vendor that they have on file and they have used for the purchase of other boards.
Is it usual that these type of purchases get, I don't know, get a competitive bid? Or is it you just with a more complex project?
So I'll defer to Mr. LaFleur.
Yeah,
Maybe I should
superintendent
have
solid.
called on him to begin with, but I didn't.
No, we
He's
just spoke
technically
about
in
it
the street department.
Jeff LaFleur, superintendent solid waste. In the purchase of the last ones, I think we did the state bid, the mass state bid, and that's where it fell under. We didn't have to go out to bid for it. I'm pretty sure that these were under a bid, under a state bid somewhere that we purchased these off of.
Oh, I see. That's the intergovernmental bid, or it's the bid through the.
Exactly. We use the New Hampshire state bid. Sometimes we go off the mass state bid. It gives us competitive bids, and we just compile that, and then we looked at this, and it fell into one of those.
Great, thank you.
Anyone else? Could the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Clee,
Yes.
Alderwoman Lou,
Yes.
clerk says yes. Alderwoman Kelly,
Yes.
Alderman Laws,
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien,
Yes.
and Mayor.
Yes, the motion passes. We have another communication from Dan Kukin, Purchasing Manager.
I motion to accept, place on file, and authorize the purchase of recycling and trash carts and card lids for curbside collection for year 21 in an amount not to exceed $145,000 to Totter Inc. funding through Department 168 Solid Waste Fund, solid waste by roll call.
Mr. LaFleur?
Yes, sir. Jeff LaFleur, superintendent solid waste. This is my annual request for $145,000 for replacement toters, carts, trash, recycling, and for lids. I just get this approval done early in the season just because I want to keep so many in stock for replacements.
Discussion? Alderwoman Lou?
Thank you. How many will this buy? Do you know?
We buy them and it depends on the price, the fluctuation. It depends on the resin costs and everything. I can probably purchase about 3,000 or 4,000 of these at that cost, not including lids. So I always keep 1,000 in stock. So that's when it gets depleted. Then I just resupply the stock.
Okay. And do we replace people's when they break for no cost?
If it's done by the city plows or ourselves, yes, we do replace it. But if it's complete negligence of the resident, they end up paying for it. We charge them for it.
And this is another just thing I wonder. The backup, the documentation said that they looked good in 2002, I think, or maybe 2008. Are they the only vendor of this, or have we done any cost comparisons, any competitive?
Sorry, Alderwoman Lou. We keep it with the commonality. All the parts that we have in stock right now is all through toter, and it fits one specific toter. So if I was to go out to exchange and go to a different brand, I'd have to buy all new wheels and lids and stuff like that to replace those. It would be just too confusing to know which person had what type of toter or cart or however you want to call it.
Oh, because we actually do repairs. So we have repair parts.
Absolutely. If a wheel falls off, my foreman goes out there and repairs it. If a lid's broken, it gets called in. We usually send them right out to fix it. We're replacing probably 100 a week usually of the lids. Like you said, they were set out in 2003, so they're 17 years old, and there's some starting to fall apart. Not many. They're holding up a lot longer than we thought they would.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Could the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman
Sorry,
Clee.
Mr. Mayor, I had my hand raised.
Oh, sorry. Well, you're not on the camera, so I couldn't tell.
I did it through the
Kelly.
thing. Sorry.
Alderman Kelly.
And then I was on mute and I kept being like, wait, me. You couldn't hear me. I just had a question more from a standpoint of, have you seen an increase in people requesting these? I know people are home more now. and are producing more trash and recycling potentially than they have in the past.
I'm sorry, were you saying lids or more from more carts?
Toters, yep.
Toters, yeah. I haven't really. People are following the guidelines of, only filling it up so much and recycling as much as possible. We're still getting a lot of recycling, which is great. The very few that do ask for it, we ask them to send us a letter, and they have to prove that it warrants getting a second cart.
That's good to know. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else? Could the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Clee,
Yes.
Alderwoman Lou,
Yes.
clerk says yes. Alderwoman Kelly,
Yes.
Alderman Laws,
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien,
Yes.
and Mayor.
Yes, motion passes.
Thank you.
Another communication from Dan Kuchen.
Yes, I move to accept, placed on file, and authorize the contract renewal with the Humane Society of Greater Nashua for year 2021 in the amount of $99,081, funding through Department 109, Civic and Community Services, Fund General, by roll call.
Now I see Ms. Bagley here. Are you here on this?
Yes, Mayor, I am.
Okay, please could you give the explanation then?
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
Bobby Bagley, Division of Public Health and Community Services, Director. The contract that we have here is for the Humane Society to provide impoundment services for the city. They are a designated pound for the city of Nashua, and the Division of Public Health and Community Services Environmental Health Department works with the Humane Society and the Nashua Police Department, Animal Control, to oversee the contract and the deliverables of this service. They usually do a monthly report for us to give account of the activities and the work that they do.
And this has been a very long-standing arrangement, decades long.
Yes, over 20 years.
Any questions, comments from anyone?
I have a question.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Yeah. So my question is, if you see monthly reports, have you seen an uptick in anything from the chicken ordinance?
Alderwoman Kelly, I have not seen that. Those reports go to the health officer, IDP.
Sure.
And so what I can do is I can check those and then give you a response and a reply back to the board, the finance committee.
I'd appreciate that. I just want to make sure that if they're doing extra work, that they've got, the resources that they need. And I know the chickens, they have to do a blood test and all types of things. So I just want to make sure that they're doing okay with that portion of the contract.
Okay.
Alderwoman Clee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And actually, that was my question about this. I don't know if I missed it, but I don't see anywhere in this contract that we talk about when we bring the chickens to when the animal control officer brings chickens in. Is that part of this contract? Because as Alderwoman Kelly pointed out, there has to be blood work, et cetera, done, or are we doing it on a per basis? Are we reimbursing and paying them?
Alderman Clee, sorry, Bobby Bagley, Division Director,
That's okay.
Public Health and Community Services. That is another question that I'd have to get answered. When I did speak with the health officer about the chickens, because of the impoundment and there's so many of them, they thought that that number was so high that would be hard for them to manage. So I have to find out if in fact we have seen a number of impoundments of chickens and if in fact what the impact of that has been.
I know that we've had at least a few of them. I've been there when they've had up to 3 or 4 chickens, and I should say more roosters than chickens, and through no fault of their own, or even the citizens, because when they're little chicklets, they don't know what they are. So this is not a criticism of that. I just want to make sure that I just want to know how they're getting paid. I'm assuming that they're not eating the cost of this, that we are doing it. And whether it's in this contract, I didn't see it in the contract. And I'm not looking for necessarily a number of how many, but are we covering the cost of it? And is it under a separate contract? That's more of what my question is. So thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Clea. I'll find that out. And no, that information is not in here. And that was asked prior to the contract going before legal. And as I mentioned, the health officer explained that there was so much with the roosters and the chickens that wasn't something that they had added to this contract. But I will get that information.
Mr. Mayor, can I have a follow-up on this?
Yes.
Should we continue with approval of this without that information and then possibly amend it? Or would it be best, I mean, to approve this and then amend it if necessary, or would it be better to table this until we got that information?
Well, I don't think this is urgent.
Okay. Then I think
we will be meeting again in a couple of weeks.
Okay, then I think I'd like to make a recommendation of tabling this.
Motion is to
Mr.
table.
Mayor, if I could speak to that motion.
All right,
Yep.
so a couple of people are raising their hands, I see. Alderwoman Lou.
Thank you, Mayor Donches. I just wanted to ask Director Bagley whether does this contract amount change yearly?
Mayor?
Director Bagley.
Alderman New, this contract's amount has stayed the same for the amount of time that I've been at the division. For the past 3 years that this has been renewed.
Okay.
I think it's been 99,000 for a long time.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you. That's all I wanted to know. I wondered whether, so if it was 99,000 before the chickens came in.
It was.
So I just wonder whether we want to pay them at least the 99,000. So I wonder if this could just be approved and then, yeah, amended, but I don't know what's better. Thank you.
Well, I don't think it's urgent, so I don't see any problem with holding it and getting an answer to the question and looking into the issue. Alderwoman Lou.
So if we were going to go on to the next point in the meeting, I did want to ask Director Bagley something about something else. So if she was going to jump off, I wanted to make sure she didn't.
Why don't we dispose of this item, and then why don't you ask Director Bagley the question you have on your mind? Is there any other? The motion now pending is to table this till the next meeting. Any further discussion?
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Thank you. Sorry. So I was trying to dig around here, but I thought we had amended their contract back when we did the chicken ordinance to include chickens in impoundment. And I don't know if someone like I'm looking at September 29th and it has chickens in there. But I just want to make sure that it didn't get left off.
Well, we're going to investigate this and come back to you, assuming the motion to table passes.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now and it looks like potentially that got dropped off. So whatever discussion seemed to happen, then let's do that. And I'm for tabling it.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Could the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Clea.
Yes.
Alderwoman Lou.
Yes.
Clerk says yes. Alderwoman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Laws.
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
And Mayor.
Yes, motion passes. Now, Alderwoman Lou, why don't you go ahead and ask Director Bagley the question you were wanting to ask.
Thank you. My question comes from the record of expenditures, and my question is, are there staff in the Board of Health under you that meet with the public for immunizations or anything like this at this time?
Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
Alderman Lu, is your question, are there members of the Board of Health on staff that provide immunizations?
No, not the Board of Health, but the health department. That's what I meant.
Oh, yes. So
Um,
members of our staff do provide immunizations at this time.
And they haven't stopped during the COVID-19?
What we've been doing is it's by appointment only. And so individuals that need to maintain their shingles vaccinations or other adult vaccinations, they make appointments with the public health nurses and they'll meet them outside and they'll give them their vaccines.
So I'm just wondering why they don't qualify for a stipend, or do they? Because I know that our first responders have stipends, and I wondered if.
Well, I can answer that question. So the stipends are being provided with the state, by the state, $300 a week. And that's a channeling of the federal funds that have come into the state of New Hampshire. Part of the funds, of course. There is a weekly call with the governor, the mayors and the governor. On one or two occasions, I've asked whether the public health employees could be included in the first responders. And in each case, the governor has answered, well, a lot of people have made that request and we'll think about it. But to date, the people that are being provided the stipend, the group of people has not been expanded so far to include the public health personnel.
Well, okay.
Because I agree with you that they should be. That public health employees should be also included along with our other first responders who are receiving that stipend.
I think that's shameful, but thank you.
They should be included, no question about it. Now, why they're not, I haven't gotten a clear explanation.
Well, if in your line of duty, you are required to be in close proximity to the public, I don't understand how that could be rebutted, but thank you very much for that explanation. I'm sorry to hear that.
I don't either. Now, in addition to the immunizations, which you've just been asking about, public health does periodic clinics where they are testing people directly.
Yeah.
And now we're doing one a week, but when the tests weren't as widely available among the medical providers, public health was doing more than one a week, one clinic a week, 2 or 3 clinics. And of course, has been having contact with people from the public regarding the testing for COVID-19 for at least a couple of months. So again, I'm just reiterating that I agree with you that they should be getting the stipend. Alderwoman Klee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I want to echo Alderwoman Lou's concerns, and thank you very much for all the work you've been doing, Mr. Mayor, speaking with the governor. And I can tell you that myself and my fellow state reps are also, up in arms about this. We have been talking to it, and I know that our public health people have been doing the clinics, as you mentioned, but we've also done mobile clinics where we're actually going out into the community. And I know they're taking every precaution possible, but Director Bagley and her staff have just been outstanding, as have so many of our other staff throughout the city. And I do think it's a shame that he has just cherry picked a certain group of people when there are so many more that should be added. And I thank Alderwoman Lou for bringing this subject up. Thank you.
Now, we are trying to pursue another avenue, which is we've been seeking through emergency management, and I believe Ms. Kleiner has been involved as well, in inquiring whether the gopher funds that will come to the city could be used to provide the stipend for public health employees. And I don't think we've gotten a clear answer on that yet, have we?
No, Mr. Mayor, we have not received a concise answer. To the best ability we know of now, the city could certainly decide to do so, but it may or may not be covered. And that would have to be a decision that we would make and see when we do submit to the gopher whether it's actually accepted.
And of course, since we weren't planning for this, there are no funds budgeted for those stipends, no city money. So we've been trying to get them qualified for the gopher funds as a plan B if the state's not going to provide the stipends to the public health employees. Anyone else on this or anything else? All right, well, thank you for your question, Alderwoman Liu, and thank you, Ms. Bagley. I don't think we have anything else for you tonight, so if you'd like to go back to dinner or whatever, please feel free.
Thank you, Mayor.
Unfinished business, we have none. New business resolutions, we have none. New business ordinances, we have none. Next is the record of expenditures. Is there a motion from Madam Clerk on the record of expenditures?
My screen open here. All right. I motion that the Finance Committee has compiled with the city charter and ordinance pertaining to the record of expenditures for the period from June 1st, 2020 to June 25th, 2020 by roll call.
And are there any questions or comments on the record of expenditures? Alderwoman Liu.
Is there anyone there that can point out, I think some of our city COVID-19 relief has been provided to some of our small businesses by this time. And I wonder if I could just get some enlightenment on what account that comes out of.
This would be the COVID-19 Impact Fund.
Right.
And funds have been authorized for loan to small businesses. Mr. Griffin, the CFO, is on the call or on the meeting. Can you identify which account that those funds are issued from?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. John Griffin, CFO. It's my understanding that some of the funds that Alderwoman Liu was talking about have not been issued yet, but I could certainly provide to the Finance Committee worksheets that spell out the intended recipient of the funds, and instead of looking at the record of expenditure, because the record of expenditure is just going to show the checks that have been issued during a period of time. So if you would like, Mr. Mayor, I could get that information and send it out to you and the members of the Finance Committee.
Would that help, Alderwoman Liu?
Sure, yeah. So, but aren't they issued as checks?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, they are issued as checks or ACH transfers, which would show up in the record of expenditure. If we haven't seen them yet in this particular record of expenditure, it just means we haven't issued any checks. But I think based on the interest of the Finance Committee and the importance of the COVID-19 Impact Fund, it would probably be a worthwhile piece of information that I could communicate to the members of the Finance Committee.
So the first of the loans, and there is a loan committee that reviews all this,
right,
including bankers, some private sector people, as well as city people. But the first of the loans were granted some time ago. So we may see that checks were in previous record of expenditures because this is for only a 2-week period. And and so I think you would get more complete information if the CFO got you a list of the loans that have been agreed to and those that have been funded so far.
Sure, that would be great. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on the record of expenditure?
Just one other.
Yes, go ahead.
So the downtown improvements ETF, those payments, those are not part of the COVID-19 relief fund?
No, they're not.
What are those?
So an ordinance was passed, I'd say 2011, maybe, around then, which provides that all parking meter and lease parking funds collected by the city in excess of $728,000 are spent to support downtown activities. And the Downtown Improvement Committee is tasked with making recommendations to the Board of Aldermen regarding how those funds over and above $728,000 should be expended. And they're held until the Downtown Improvement Committee makes a recommendation, and that makes a recommendation. Now, I think the Board of Aldermen has given the Downtown Improvement Committee relatively carte blanche regarding the use of the funds, so has kind of made an advance approval, but the source of the funds is the parking meter and lease parking revenue in excess of $728,000.
So do you mean in this period that we're looking at here, we've decided to just pay these out to 10 or 15 different small businesses in the downtown?
Well, the Downtown Improvement Committee funds are not being used. I think they gave some of their money to the COVID impact fund, but it went into the COVID-19 impact fund and would be distributed that way.
Well, I'm actually looking at page 33 of the record of expenditures.
And what's the check you're looking at?
Well, I'm looking at 15 of them for different companies in downtown Nashua.
Well, those might be the COVID-19. Give me an example. Those might be the COVID-19 impact fund distribution.
Okay, that's fine. I thought you just told me they weren't. But
well, you asked me about downtown improvement funds.
Right. It comes
is a separate thing from the COVID-19 impact fund.
Right, but this comes out of the downtown improvement expendable trust fund.
So, Mr. Mayor, if I may.
I think they allocated 50,000 to COVID-19 relief.
Yes, there's 55,560.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, so that's coming right out of those.
Well, I thought it was. I thought it was probably going through the COVID impact account, but maybe it's being issued directly out of the downtown improvement funds.
That's fine.
But it's still being reviewed by the same loan committee. Mr. Griffin.
Yes, Mayor, just to add some additional clarity, they're $5,000 payments, as Alderwoman Lou indicates. Those aren't the loans or the grants that we've been providing through the COVID fund. So you're absolutely correct. The payments were made right out of the Downtown Improvement Expendable Trust Fund.
Yes, Alderwoman Lou.
Thank you. Mr. Griffin, did you say they are the COVID-19 or they are not the COVID-19?
It might not have been, hopefully my microphone works. They are not part of the loans. They were, as the mayor indicated, direct payments as the choice of the team that reviews the downtown improvement funds. They were made directly out of the external expendable trust fund for downtown improvements to those entities that are shown on that page.
I'm not sure I've ever seen that fund disperse directly to small businesses in downtown Nashua. I could be wrong, but I mean, I thought they were just, they didn't move the money from the downtown improvements fund to the COVID-19 relief fund that we set up. And I thought they were for COVID-19, but if they're not for COVID-19, are they just, I mean, is that the way our parking revenues are dispersed, just like, to increase the revenue of the downtown businesses?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, instead of moving the money, the 55,000, 56,000 to the impact fund, they would direct disbursements. And as the mayor indicated, back when this began in the 2011, 2012 timeframe, I've never seen direct payments to businesses, but because this is an unprecedented time, they wanted to get the money quickly to those businesses. Generally, what you're going to find is campaigns or other downtown related initiatives that would have nothing to do. They wouldn't spend the money and give it to businesses to then go out and spend again. They do we have a long list of initiatives that have been funded by the Downtown Improvement Committee.
Yeah, this would be the first time that money has been directed to any private business, but of course, COVID-19 is an unprecedented situation. Usually some of the projects they paid for over time, the new directional signs that you see around the city, for example, were paid for with downtown improvement funds. Holiday lighting, other needs like that are funded with the use of these funds. I mean, it usually is somewhere in the vicinity of $100,000 to $150,000 per year.
So can I just make sure I get this straight? Can I ask a couple of follow-up questions?
Yes.
So, Mr. Griffin, we keep going back and forth on this. And so there is a COVID-19 relief fund. It was funded by CARES Act and also by some money from CDBG. And I think that's all. And there will be grants approved from that. Do I understand it correctly that the Downtown Improvements Fund also had money that they have allocated to businesses downtown in their, according to a rubric? It's not really part of that COVID relief fund that we've talked about at prior meetings with the Board of Aldermen. However, you're saying it is COVID relief related. Is that what you're saying?
That's
Sorry, could I actually respond, Mr. Mayor? Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Sorry, I know quite a bit about this. I was on the call where they decided to do this. So if I could potentially clear some things up for Alderwoman Liu, I'd like to. So as the mayor pointed out, the city had set up the Downtown Improvement Committee to allow them to decide what they use with a pool of money over the $750,000 every year. This year, because of COVID, there was a long discussion about potentially helping some of the smaller businesses. And the discussion was around, well, we may not have a downtown to support and put up banners or things of that nature if we don't help. And so they voted to allow this 56,000 and some change to go directly to businesses with a rubric like you're asking. It was part of the impact fund, but just like CDBG is going to go through Sarah Marchant's application process, this went through them directly. Does that clear it up for you? You're on mute.
Yes, I'm sorry that you were forced to be mute while we talked about this, but the only thing that I don't understand is at the end when you said this is part of the COVID-19 fund. I mean, it is, except it wasn't put into a segregated fund, correct? I mean,
Yeah, so
you can call money something, but when I hear it's part of the COVID relief fund, I think that we're talking about the fund that we have allocated money to. And so yeah.
I would like to hear from the financial body on this, but the way I understood it was the COVID impact that we put together was multiple pools. There was the revolving loan fund, which has a advisory board that looks at it. There's a CDBG money, which is a very specific type of application and a way that you have to go through Carrie Skeena and Director Marchand, and then this pool of money that the Downtown Improvement Committee came together. So it was a little bit of a like, we're grabbing from different places to put as much money together to help support people throughout COVID. And so each pool of money, so you would come in and you'd say, I need some help, and they would look at your availability, or I'm sorry, your what you qualify for and put you in the right bucket. So if you had the right qualifications for CDBG fund and we thought that you could follow through with the steps of they need extra reporting and things like that, then we'd put you in that pool. If you came in and said, I'm just a small business downtown, I can't pay my rent right now, you might go through the Downtown Improvement Committee fund, and they would look at your application that way. So that is how I understood it in all the talks with Director Cummings, Director Marchand, and the various bodies that came together for that. I wasn't under the understanding that there was a separate fund that we took all that money into and then put out, but that is a financial question.
Alderwoman Lou.
Thank you. I'm all set. That makes perfect sense. I was just trying to understand. Thank you, Alderman Kelly.
Yeah, of course.
If that's correct, if no one objects to, if Director Griffin, has nothing to add to that, but that's fine. I think the whole discussion may have been just a, trying to get our heads aligned with different ways of communicating something. Thank you.
All right, we're still on the record of expenditures. Any other comments or questions about the record of expenditures? Could the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Clee.
Yes.
Alderwoman Lou.
Yes.
Clerk says yes. Alderwoman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Laws.
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
And Mayor.
Yes. General discussion. Are there any items of general discussion? If not, we'll move on to remarks by Alderman. Are there any remarks by Alderman? I don't see anyone.
I have something.
Alderwoman Harriet Gathright.
Okay. Southern New Hampshire Outreach of Black Unity and the Greater Nashville NAACP, New Fellowship Baptist Church, and Rough Riders, and I believe BLM is a part of this. We will be doing Frederick Douglass reading in the common area of the library at noontime on Friday. So if you're interested in reading or you just want to hear his speech, please come out and join us. It's probably going to be from about 12 to 1:15. And we are practicing social distancing. You must bring your lawn chair and you must bring your mask, but we will have masks. Yes.
And will this be from the biography of Frederick Douglass or from his
No, this is from the speech that he gave in New York many, many years. Well, and it was the speech. Basically, he was asked to give a speech about slavery and or Black America on July 4th. And I guess in the speech, he starts off pretty much praising folks for what they've done in America up to now. But then he goes into the fact that it really isn't a Black holiday. And so on the 5th of July, he actually gave the speech and it was considered the Black 4th of July, basically. But it's pretty powerful.
Sounds interesting.
So this was the second, we did it for the first time in conjunction with Portsmouth Black Heritage Trail. last year, along with several towns, but we have done it. And this year, I think they're actually doing a PBS broadcast also. That's going to be on the 4th at, I think it's 7 o'clock, where many people from many towns and cities in New Hampshire actually got together and gave that same speech. So it's going to be a nice weekend. I think the 4th, the 5th, it will be on PBS, but we're going to live stream from City Hall, not City Hall, sorry, from the library.
Well, thank you for letting us know.
You're very welcome.
Anyone else? Aldermanic comments? I don't see anyone.
I would like to comment.
Alderwoman Kelly.
This week has been a blur, but I don't think I've had any other aldermanic meetings, and I just wanted to congratulate the Pride Committee on a job well done. Virtual Pride was so well put together, and the performers were fantastic. So if you missed it last Saturday, you can still watch it through the Facebook page.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Comments by Alderman? Remarks by Alderman? If not, Alderwoman Clee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to, excuse me, I'd like to, my goodness, oh my, adjournment. Yes, I'd like to,
There's a
motion for adjournment.
made by Alderwoman Clee. Could the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Clee.
Yes.
Alderwoman Lou.
Yes.
Clerk says yes. Alderwoman Kelly.
Yep.
Alderman Laws.
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
And Mayor.
Yes. Thank you all. And the meeting is adjourned at 8:04 p.m.
Oh, you know what? The person, Scott, is he still here? I forgot to get his last name. I see his phone number. Is he there?
Scotty there?
From the police department.
I think he left. I think.
Yeah. He was on that phone that's there. But do you know what his name was? Searles or something like that?
I think his last name is Searles, yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.